What's up, guys? Welcome back to No Color Entertainment. This is Matt.
This is Ariane.
And, yeah, we're back after a long time.
Yep.
Yeah, obviously, we've both been very, very busy trying to...
Live.
Yeah. Deal with our new schedules and try to figure out time for everything. And that's why I think this channel is going to go more away from gameplay videos, more towards...
General
discussions.
Entertainment.
Yeah. So we start back up with Thor Ragnarok, which me and Ariane went to see last night. And, and by the way, before we continue, there are spoilers ahead.
The night is dark and full of spoilers.
The night is dark and full of spoilers.
It is now.
You have been warned. So, thoughts on Thor Ragnarok?
I enjoyed it. I feel like the formula that Marvel, Disney, MCU has employed for the overwhelming success of their movies has been, working for them. I feel like I could see that formula a lot clearer in this movie. I don't know that I could actually enumerate what that formula would be, but it was kind of like eking through. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It depends on what your preferences are. Me and Matt have had numerous heated conversations on the subject of horror movies in particular, and with other friends, but particularly because of, October and Halloween and everything, watch more horror movies than usual. And I've just never been a big fan of a lot of horror movies in general, or more probably particularly to slasher films. And part of my concern for those as a genre is the tropes in which I feel like they rely on. This movie certainly had its own. I think it's a matter of personal preference as to which ones you're willing to let go or not. Or that even when you see a trope, you can still be like, it's still enjoyable. I can't do that with horror movies. I can't do that particularly specifically with slashers. With action movies, there's a lot more I'm probably willing to let go. And even then, I'm still probably gonna be like, well, but that being said, though, for some reason with Marvel, they have enough pleasantness going on in the background or in the foreground that I am willing to forgive them for a lot of their other cinema sins. So that's just
plug.
Well, yeah, not even a plug. We don't work for them. We're not being paid by them or anything like that. It's just no movie is without sin. It's very true. We're very big fans of them.
We're big fans of cinema sins.
Yeah, so shout out to them. But yeah, in general though, like, it's very true. I get sin the shit out of this movie. But that being said, I'd still freaking watch it again. I don't know if I'd go and pay to see it, watch it again, but I'd absolutely watch it again. So
yeah, and that's the thing.
Chris Hemsworth's hot. So sorry.
Marvel has had its ups and downs. And I believe when Marvel first started coming out with movies, when you look at the original Spider-Man, the original X-Men, even though that's Fox, I understand, but still Marvel, it was a lot of fan service. If we put these characters on the screen, we'll make money. Period. And as Marvel has grown, which we've seen with Deadpool, the Wolverine, Avengers, we've seen stronger stories, stronger characters, and less foul-ups. The most glaring example being the way they handled the Dark Phoenix the first time.
God.
Freaking terrible. And it looks like they may be doing better this time. I'm not sure. We'll see. But the point being that Thor Ragnarok was better than The Dark World, but it wasn't the best Marvel movie I've ever seen. And a large part of that has to be from the opening scene. The opening scene, I thought, was one of the weakest scenes I've ever seen in a Marvel movie. There's tremendous special effects, great CGI.
And it sets up the portion of the rest of the movie as well.
And it does set up part of the movie, but at the same time, to be honest, it was lame. It was lame. I mean, when walk into Avengers or it's Captain America Civil War, not Avengers Civil War, even though it should have been Avengers Civil
Seriously.
War. When I walked into Captain America Civil War, it was like that opening scene was okay. This is what we're doing.
Strap in, people.
Yeah, strap in because we're
doing
ride.
this.
Thor Ragnarok started slow and boring and kind of stilted. That whole scene, the dialogue felt forced. There was one good moment in the entire scene. And again, for anyone who's joining, there are spoilers, so that's your final warning. When the very first two lines between the villain and Thor, where the villain goes, Thor, son of Odin, and Chris Hemsworth comes back with whatever his name was, son of a bitch, you're still alive, how are you? You know, that was a pretty well-deserving line, but other than that, the entire first scene failed to get me immersed into the film. And when I go to Marvel, I go to Star Wars, I go to these big franchise films that I love to watch, I expect to be grabbed, sucked in from the get-go. I don't expect to wait, which threw me off from the very beginning.
Well, no, I will say that I see your point. I agree with it for the most part. I think that I'm okay with a slow build, but that's not what it felt like they were trying to do with that.
No, that wasn't a slow build. I mean, it was a huge action scene.
No, I know. That's what I'm trying to say. Like when I want to see when I'm paying to see a movie, then it's to me a contract that I'm holding with the movie studios, social contract or whatever it might be, that says, all right, I'm paying to see whatever piece of crap, whatever fantastic Oscar winner, I'm paying to see whatever it is you're going to put on in front of me. Entertain me. And if you aren't able to do that to a large extent, then I, as a consumer, will feel cheated. I don't feel that this movie did that for me, but I completely agree with the way that they started it out. It's whenever you start a movie, it does tend to set the pace. So if you do a slow build, for example, and maybe like, I don't know, Star Trek Into Darkness starts that way a little bit, where you're not really sure what's going on. Like, you're kind of confused. It's something to do with the Starship Enterprise. What's the deal? And it's related to something else that's going to go on to the movie, so the audience is left in suspense to a certain degree. And that's okay. That's good.
But there was no suspense here.
No, there was none. That's part of it. You know Thor's going to get out somehow. There's no stake in it. He's got to. Granted, there's some suspense in the fact that he can't get back immediately, but that's just probably more for comedic effect than anything. And you know that's what's going to happen. But if I may finish, the idea is that I agree that it was neither a slow build nor an action-packed sequence, at least in the intro.
But here's a question I want to pose to you, because this question popped into my head in the middle of the movie, which I immediately recognized. The fact that this is even popping into my head shows that I'm not immersed in this film yet. Do you think that Marvel and even Disney, well, mostly Marvel, giving their lineups ahead of time, because we know there's new Avengers coming, we know this is coming, they've given us this schedule of movies that are coming, and knowing that, oh, well, we know that there's an Avengers Infinity War, does that automatically take some of the stake away when one of our heroes is in danger?
Not necessarily, because, I mean, in comic books, heroes die. They are resurrected, true, but they do die.
But that's the problem. You know they're going to come back somehow.
You presume that they're going to come back.
Like, for example, there was no punch to me from Superman's death in Batman v Superman.
Oh, absolutely none.
There was no punch, because I knew Justice League's coming. This whole movie is a blowjob to the fact that Justice League is coming.
It's weirdly done.
And if you had a Justice League movie without Superman, you fail.
It's an awkward hand job.
Immediately.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, is that punch gone in those conflict scenes where the hero's supposed to be in danger? Is that punch gone because we know the schedule?
I think it can be. I think with the Marvel movies, it should be to some extent. I think that because there's been enough rumors going around or speculation about knowing that you had the one scene, I think, in Ultron where you see all the a bunch of the characters die. And there's some sort of vision.
Which is awesome.
No, yeah, which is great. But the idea that at some point there's a possibility that either new characters will come in, someone else will be a new Iron Man or a new Thor or whatever, or something like that. Someone else will take place.
You still have Pedro Morales who can come in as Spider-Man.
Loki can impersonate Odin. Who's to say he couldn't impersonate Thor also?
Yeah.
So there's always a possibility that but that early in the movie, absolutely not. Now, later on in the movie, midway through, that still shouldn't be something going through your mind. The idea is that, I'm watching Rogue One, and even though I know that for anyone who hasn't seen Rogue One, should have by now, for anyone who's seen Rogue One, that is the understanding that this mission is doomed. Because...
Oh, yeah.
Or is it? I'm going through the entire movie just hoping and praying that somehow they all make it out. Even until the very last second where, like, the fireball goes off in the back distance and they're hugging or whatever, or just holding hands or whatever it is they're doing in the scene, when the Death Star finally shoots off its load, and your main characters die.
That's a weird way to phrase it.
What else would you call it? It's a gigantic ball shooting. Sorry. Whatever. Crass though it may be, the idea is that it decimates the characters who were there. And up until that moment, I had the hope that they were going to somehow survive, which was ripped away from me. Fuck you, Disney, Star Wars.
See, absolutely knew that. I knew they were going to die at the end. I thought it was beautiful how they died at the end.
I'm fine
By the way,
it.
anyone who just jumped in, we're on Star Wars right now. We're going back to Thor in a second. No one died in Ragnarok.
That's my point. My point being that the idea of taking away the stakes for a character because you assume that they're going to survive is not necessarily inherent in every Marvel movie, even though they do release the timeline ahead of time, except for when they're releasing a Captain America movie coming out in 2 more years or something like that. Then okay, Captain America has to make it out of this somehow.
No, yeah, and that's what
you want to know how. You want to know how they make it.
I think that's what the studios have to be careful of, and I think Star Wars, for example, has done a very good job with it, where there's going to be 2 more Star Wars movies, and then the rest are spin-offs, but they're spin-offs from before this era. You're not seeing like a spin-off for Finn or a spin-off for these characters, like what have they been doing during this time period, because they know if you say, okay, there's definitely going to be a Star Wars Episode 9, you can't do anything with any characters that can't die.
Well, okay, but before we continue, for anyone who joins us, feel free to add in comments. We will read them and feel free to join in on the conversation.
Yeah. But anyway, back to Ragnarok real quick.
What was the title of those?
Yeah, because we have to go back to... We're getting off track already. So the opening was weak. I think we both agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, but from then on, you have a great Marvel movie.
I will say, though, that even though it was weak, it does set the stage. I do remember seeing this somewhere in a title on like a YouTube stream somewhere about the Ragnarok movie and another review that was done immediately after it came out. And that it was leaning more towards comedy. And that was very present and obvious throughout the entire movie. So that even if you're willing to ignore or be bothered by some of the obvious tropes they may play towards, or some of the predictability that comes in an action movie or a Marvel movie specifically, you would still forget for a second when you laugh. Like Loki be like, that's how it feels when Thor is getting smashed around by the Hulk.
Yeah,
at
that whole Loki reaction to the Thor was fantastic.
No, yeah.
But we will take a quick pause to acknowledge the greatest part of this movie, Tessa Thompson.
Yes.
Not Emma Thompson. Tessa Thompson.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Her.
Playing as the Valkyrie, one of the greatest introductions.
Stand out for sure.
Brand new Marvel character that I will look very forward to watching in the future.
I know she's a brand new Marvel character. I'm not familiar with Thor's story, but she's at least brand new to MCU.
New MCU character.
Yes.
But the fact is that character stole the movie.
For me, yeah. Absolutely too.
She had the best lines. She had the best moments.
Trunks.
Just the evolution of her throughout the movie is fantastically done. Jeff Goldblum, fantastic job.
Yes.
It was fun to watch him as a villain. We don't get it very often, so it's kind of fun to watch that.
He reminds me. I saw him, and he played a very similar character. I want to say it was Arrested Development, and where he was in. And he played. I don't think it was. Maybe it wasn't Arrested Development. He was on he did a guest shot, a cameo for a sitcom a few years ago. It was a very similar character, very smarmy.
Was it in The League?
It might have been The League.
Yeah.
It might have been The League.
Is that the one where he bangs his sister?
Yeah, it was The League. Yeah, no, yeah.
And that's what I was going to allude to.
Very similar character.
The only comedic role I've seen him in is The League.
Yeah.
And that's why it didn't throw me off as much seeing him in more of a comedic role, a comedic villain role, because I knew he could do it from watching The League.
No, yeah.
And, I mean, shame on me for thinking Jeff Goldblum can't do anything. But the point being that he did a great job. Chris Hemsworth, of course, he's fine as Thor. Keep him as Thor.
Oh, my God, yeah, he's fine.
Even with the gratuitous shirt off, six-pack bulging, bicep pounding bullshit
Feast your eyes.
right in the middle of the movie.
Feast your eyes.
Just look at Chris Hemsworth. He's half naked. Yeah. Like, okay, this is great. My wife's enjoying this. Can we get back to the story, please?
Give it a second. Okay, now we can continue. And 360.
So that was a lot of fun.
The triangle. Get the triangle.
But yeah, he did great. Hulk was a lot of fun. It was nice that they gave him some speaking lines.
No, yeah. And it was interesting. If I jump in, we were just watching a top 10. I forget who did it.
Action scenes.
Yeah, top 10 action scenes of Marvel. I want to give credit to anyone that we ever referenced on YouTube. I forget who it was. I do apologize.
But if you look up top 10 action scenes in Marvel movies, you'll find it.
And they use a scene from the original, not the original, but the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk.
The what should have been the original.
Yeah.
We don't reference the first.
What first one?
The Eric Bana version.
What first one?
The Eric Bana version.
What first
Baby,
one?
I know. Eric Bana.
Go with me! But the idea is that the use of technology in the time from when the first Hulk movie came out, which was not that long after the first Iron Man movie came out, to where we are now is tremendous. One, it was almost painful to kind of see. Like, granted, like it can still uphold. It still kind of stands the test of time. Not in the same way that the freaking T-1000 from Terminator 2 does now, or Jurassic Park does now. But it's still pretty, comparable. But in knowing that the facial recognition, the facial movements, the everything that goes along with who the Hulk's expressions, in that first movie with Edward Norton to now, where the majority of the time that we see the Hulk's character, it is the Hulk. It is not Bruce Banner. It is the Hulk, essentially, and his reactions to what's going on. And just, you can see a lot clearer that this used to be a person. Mm-hmm. I forget his name. Who's the name of the actor?
Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, yeah. So you can actually recognize Mark Ruffalo in Hulk's face when he's talking.
Very well illustrated in a specific shot where Mark Ruffalo is looking at something.
Mm-hmm. That was fantastic. Oh my God.
The reflection of the Hulk comes up on his face
as he's looking into the screen.
As he's looking at a screen, and it's a beautiful shot.
Yeah. It
is one of the best shots in Marvel. It's right up there with Chris Evans grabbing the helicopter, which is still the ultimate Marvel. I mean, that shot in Marvel with Chris Evans grabbing the helicopter by its leg and just pulling it back,
all sorts of tendons.
Biceps bulging, the pain on his face. Just that is a superhero shot, right?
Yeah, it is.
That's
a fucking superhero shot.
Superhero shot.
Yeah.
And Marvel is just getting better and better and better at.
Which is just one more reason why I've always appreciated Marvel more than DC, with the exception of Batman. And the reason probably being that Batman is the closest thing to being, well, not even the closest. He is human, compared to all of the what is it, augmented or what advanced or humans, whatever the term they use in that, I don't know. And compared to Marvel, where for the most part everyone there is fucking human. I'm trying to think of anyone who isn't. Everyone's human. There are no superhero humans. The only person who, obviously,
Spider-Man.
You have Spider-Man. You have
Wolverine.
Wolverine.
Is probably the
you have
closest.
the mutants. However, The difference being that I would think that
and Thor's a god.
Well, he's a god, but he's even getting his ass kicked.
No, yeah. But he only gets his ass kicked by gods.
But he's a god, as in, like, he's a god by our standards, I guess would be the way it's going to determine it.
Yeah.
And certainly, like, whatever terms they have used, the point is that it's a lot more, you see in Captain America that he is mortal in that shot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is not Superman. He is the closest thing that we in science were able to craft to getting to Superman, but he's not fucking Superman.
Yeah.
This shit was not easy for him. Whereas with Superman, that would have been tossed like a fucking bath toy or something like that. So yeah. But okay, back to the lecture at hand. With Thor Ragnarok, I wholly enjoyed all of the performances. The one that I was probably the most troubled by was not even the biggest. I was less than enthused by Cate Blanchett, even though she's a fantastic actress.
And she was a good villain.
She was good.
She just...
And I could believe her, and I could believe the tension that they had.
Most of the film, it wasn't fair. Like, she was just laying waste to underlings.
Yeah, I wasn't... It felt like her character wanted people to fall in line with her, and it seems like she should have been more disappointed that they weren't.
And that's the other problem.
And she wasn't. Like, she was like, oh, that's...
There's a line where Scourge says, not everyone is falling into line, and they cut into the resistance or the kind of the hiding out of the rest of Asgard. And the whole time I'm thinking, like, okay, where are the people that did fall in line?
Yeah.
Because you don't see any of them.
Well, I imagine that it might be those people who are still left in the town afterwards who are too afraid
killed at the end, by the way. If you think about that.
Yeah, let's not think about that.
So it's just a weird line.
But yeah, I guess like those people who were too scared to run away.
That's the other thing. Scourge could have been.
That was the other
so
one I was
going to
say. Who I forget his name. I'm pretty sure he was the same guy who did Bones.
Yeah.
From Star Trek. But yeah, like I was disappointed with his character, not so much in his performance. But you can see that he obviously is troubled by what's going on. But
the opening scene did not help him.
No. I think that was probably the biggest
kind of turned
drawback.
into a joke.
Yes. And you're glad that he comes back at the end and he's able to redeem himself. But it's, again, that predictability that comes along that you're just kind of like, well, yeah, he's going to have to do something now at this point.
No, yeah,
but you don't have any investment in him as an audience member because you've already seen that he's a joke. He's a joke. He feels like he's a joke.
He's not even...
He wants redemption.
And that was the whole thing. He wanted redemption. He wanted recognition. That was the whole... There was a pivotal scene where he explains that. But my whole thing is, you haven't done anything to earn it. And even at the end, it comes up short. Because you don't really do that much. I mean, you save the ship from being taken. Okay, but... I mean, that's it. That's all you do. And then you die. Like, it's... There's no weight to that.
No.
But I mean, the whole middle of the film, where they're on whatever planet that it was, Sakaar or something like that.
Yeah.
The whole Sakaar moments, just everything from when he reaches there to when they leave, was gold.
Yes.
I thought it was fantastic. I didn't see anything wrong with any of it.
The only thing that I would critique, that I have any criticism on, is in knowing that he was going to face the Hulk. If
I wish they would have kept that out of the trailer.
If they had not told us ahead of time that the Hulk was going to be in this movie, I would have been... That would have had so much more impact. But you know it's coming. It's in all the fucking trailers. And granted, it's like, well, maybe the tension can be about Thor and Hulk, like, fighting each other. Like, that's great, but how much more tension would it be if you don't know he's coming? He's there, and you're like, great, you're there with Thor too, like, awesome, they're gonna get out of here together. And then Hulk is like, no, I don't fucking know you, dude.
And that's the thing, you don't get any of that tension because you know they're going to fight because you see it in the trailer. And that's a big problem I have with trailers nowadays, and why I try to only watch bits and pieces and some of them. Like Last Jedi, I am completely cutting myself off from watching any more trailers. I've seen the teaser, and I've seen the one that aired on Monday Night Football. I'm good. I don't need to watch anything else because I will be paying and I will be seeing that movie.
Yeah.
Opening weekend.
No, yeah, you already convinced me.
Hands down. It's not happening. It's not happening. So, you, that's where everyone else I think needs to be careful watching trailers because trailers can ruin movies.
Yeah.
That scene would have been so much more powerful if we didn't know. And that's, I mean, there's been instances in the Marvel Universe where we didn't know something that had a huge impact with like a returning character or a cameo. So I wasn't completely sold on Civil War. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to watch Civil War. You know, I might go to the. I'm probably still going to see it because it's Marvel.
Yeah.
Which is what Marvel has to have more faith in. Its fan base will go see these movies no matter fucking what.
Pretty much. I think we've seen all of them in the theater with the exception of the Guardians movies and Doctor Strange. And Doctor Strange we wanted to see, we just didn't get around to it.
And when they brought Spider-Man in that final trailer before they released it, yeah, me as a fan was like, oh my god, we have to see this now. But now I'm thinking back, what would my reaction have been if I didn't know?
Well, I think to an extent, part of it, I mean, obviously, anything in movies is always still going to come down to a business decision. It always is. And every once in a while you get ones that are done out of art, but even the ones that are done out of art that are done well, a lot of times have some business influence in it. In casting, in lighting, in shooting, in releasing, in production, in promotion. All of that still comes down to a risk, cost, benefit analysis. Like, if we don't say this, will it cost us more than if we do? Well, and so I think with Spider-Man, I think that was what that was. And to an extent, I wonder if they feel any pressure by all these other fantastic movie franchises that are trying to come out right now, and just in general movies that they may be releasing in competition with, and their decisions to release some of these trailers and information to the fans and the buzz that comes along with it. So the DC's EU or whatever the fuck it was, Extended Universe, something like that, Eternal Universe, whatever the fuck it's kind of. Obviously not DC fans, sorry, but I mean that would be the obvious natural enemy to Marvel, as it almost always has been for as long as the two have been in existence together. And it seems like maybe if they didn't put as much investment, like they knew this movie was going to make money, they knew it was going to do well, they hyped the fuck out of it, obviously, but it's also recognizing that it's coming out a mere 2 weeks before Justice League, and knowing that they're trying to ramp up their fan base for that as well. And DC has not been doing well. I mean, they've done well enough in the box office, probably, but critique-wise, not exactly doing the best. So, but the idea is that might be part of their rationale for why they decide to release certain information ahead of time. But I mean, considering that in almost every Marvel movie that's come out so far since Captain America, after the Avengers movie, it has been Captain America, but you have Black Widow in there, and Nick Fury, and Falcon.
Yeah.
And then Iron Man had bunch of other people I don't remember. Thor and Loki, that's fine. This one has Hulk in it. Civil War was a Captain America movie, but it may as well have been a fucking Avengers movie for all the goddamn Avengers they had in it, but also the introduction of Spider-Man. So it's the idea that they're always kind of like leading on to like the next movie or trying to tie in, like they had Doctor Strange in this movie, so it's like trying to constantly tie in the other movies. So it's not necessarily unexpected that they would have another Avenger in this movie. It would be interesting to see if they did, because it's Thor Ragnarok and it's taking place largely in Asgard and out the outer reaches of space or whatever. So how is this going to tie into the rest of the Avengers universe? Oh, we're going to throw Hulk in there. Now, not necessarily throw him in there. People who might be aware of the comic books, there is this, place that the Hulk gets taken to. Yeah. So this is not necessarily out of nowhere. So maybe part of it's also recognizing, like, we can't ignore it because anyone who's watched who's read the comic books knows that this is a possibility that we're going to go to. And if we don't use it, they're going to be pissed. And if we do use it, they're going to be pissed. So we may as well go ahead and use it and people and kids who love the Hulk will come and see this movie far more likely than if we don't tell them it's in it.
Yeah.
So again, it comes down to a business decision. As an audience member, I'm disappointed, but I'm not that disappointed by it because the actual fight that then ensues is still a fantastic fight. So,
also great moment. The Avatar state of Thor is fantastic. I like his new power, and they've added a few new things to Thor to make him a little more new, a little more fresh. I gotta go back to the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie,
yes, let's do that.
Which is Tessa Thompson's character, is fan-freaking-tastic. And so, it's nice to have some, not even eye candy, just eye candy, ear candy for the guys in the Thor movies.
I fucking loved her.
A lot of girls go to Thor for Chris Hemsworth.
Well,
let's be real.
I go for
we love Thor. We love Marvel.
Witty dialogue,
not saying you don't.
Action scenes and the fantastic cinematography.
And they could have, and if they cut out Chris's bod scene. Oh yeah, just the look on your face right now tells me that. So it's nice to have one for the guys in Thor. Tessa Thompson is very attractive. She has, again, all the best lines.
If you haven't seen her, if you're not familiar with her, you will know her from Westworld,
Dear White People.
Dear White People, and was it Apollo or Rocky Balboa? Creed. Oh yeah, Creed. So yeah, and you'll know her from Creed. She's been in other stuff. Those are probably
fantastic actors.
The three things
and
that you'll probably know her the
always
most
plays a strong,
from.
independent woman, which is nice to see because there's been this resurgence of strong, independent female roles coming into these male-dominated movies.
Yes.
ScarJo as the Black Widow, Tessa Thompson, Ray. I mean, there's
Wonder Woman.
Oh God, of course, Wonder Woman. Sorry.
Which is, to be fair, to date, the only female lead comic book movie that I'm aware of,
and arguably one of the greatest superhero movies I've ever seen.
I wouldn't go that far.
I'm going that far with Wonder Woman because
I really fucking enjoyed
it. A great
it.
fucking movie.
But I would not go that far. There have been other fantastic.
Not the best.
Yeah.
One of them.
But no, it's one of them. It's up there.
That's all I ask.
But I mean, you also have to consider a whole history of superhero movies. We can start from Superman, Christopher Reeve style, all the way up to today. The last 30 to 40 years
a lot of them.
Comic book movies. The last 10 years have been probably where you, like 10 to 15. Well, let's say we'll say 2000. So since this century of superhero movies, because that's really where a lot of this comes in. Because you have the X-Men and Spider-Man coming out in 2000, 2001, and
from there it took off.
And just and we have Stan Lee linking all of them together, as well as Hugh Jackman, who is playing the character of Wolverine from the very first X-Men movie all the way up to Logan. So, I mean, this is a phenomenon that has spanned over the last nearly 20 years, which makes me feel super old to say that. But it's true. And I am delighted by all of it. And this conversation was not just about Thor Ragnarok, it was also about the direction of
MCU.
Marvel, of MCU in general. In comparison to others, I know that the what is it, the monsters legends or whatever they're trying to do with the other franchises, or the franchise, the addition of another universe that may have been scrapped as a result of the poor results of the Mummy's box office, which I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it. But
they give up after one movie.
Yeah, seriously. That means
King Kong was a hit. Godzilla was a hit.
I don't know about hits. Were they hits?
I think they were hits.
We enjoyed them, but I don't know if necessarily that they received the same box office.
That's true, but fuck you guys for giving up.
True. I mean, and I guess part of it is they're trying to take an old idea and make it fresh, and I'm not knocking them for that at all. We had a long conversation. We had a long conversation with a friend of ours about the history of horror movies, and needing to go back and rewatch some of the older ones with Dracula and Bela Lugosi and Creature from Black Lagoon, and these older traditional movies of horror and monsters and everything, like creature features. And I am okay with Hollywood trying to reboot that, because I feel like if they do it right, then I am satisfied. Remember, I go back to that first argument. As a consumer, if I'm able to go in and I'm entertained, then I will not feel like I'm cheated. But if you guys can't do that, then you have fucking failed. Now, if you mess up on one movie, it's gonna be hard for you to win that trust back for me, but it's not necessarily a guarantee that I won't necessarily give it another chance.
Spider-Man.
And Spider-Man is the clearest example, I think, of that. They've rebooted this now 3 times in this last 17 years.
And each time you're like,
maybe, I don't know if I want to try and I don't know if I want to invest in a new actor or in a new origin story. I've done this already enough times. I've done it with Batman, again, in the last 30 to 40 years.
Yeah.
And Batman, I feel like they can probably do that one over and over again and people won't get tired of it because it's fucking Batman. We don't necessarily need to see his parents die every time.
Batman is the cheat code to box office success. And it sucks, because as much as I hate DC, I will never not see a Batman movie.
Yeah.
And now I will never not see a Wonder Woman movie. Thank you, Gal Gadot.
Well, you say that now, but you also don't want to see Justice League, even though that's both a Batman and a Wonder Woman movie.
I'll see Justice League. I just don't want to pay.
Well, that's the difference, though. Will you see it or will you pay for it? Because movies don't care. Studios don't care if you watch it as long as you're paying for it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I have no problem just waiting for it to come on Netflix.
Well,
or HBO or whatever.
And I have no problem watching a lot of movies, waiting for it to come on Netflix or HBO or what have you not. But there are certain movies that I feel like I want.
But on the same vein, I want to see Jigsaw in theater. So, my, not everyone may agree with my thoughts.
I would much rather see Justice League than Jigsaw.
Yeah, but I'm a fanboy. I mean, what can I say? But anyway, back to Thor. It was also.
Well,
I love Loki.
Yes.
God, I love Loki. And it felt like they did not do him service in this movie.
Yeah.
And they really could have.
He was relegated to kind of like the
background.
Not even the background. He was the stick man, the straight man. You know, you have a comedy bit. You have like the guy who's like the comedy. It's the Abbott and Costello style.
Yeah.
So he was the straight guy. He was a straight man, and Thor was the comedy.
Yeah.
And it was all at the straight man's expense. That's oftentimes what it is.
Yeah, but it's like...
I know that's necessarily the case in Abbott and Costello, but that's how it goes sometimes in comedy. And that's, I agree.
Wish he'd just make a full villain turn again, and let us have Bad Guy Loki again, because that was fun. And
Bad Guy Loki is fun. I like also, it's still part of that need to watch somebody redeem themselves.
Yeah.
It's why Scourge's storyline, albeit weak, you still don't have a problem with it necessarily, just because if they had just let him get on the ship and then you never heard from him again, you'd have more of a problem with if he actually sacrificed himself trying to save all the people that he almost dicked over. And the same thing he said for Loki. Like, I was kind of happy that he showed up. Granted, it's a Loki ex machina that I really wasn't expecting or looking for. And that's not necessarily a good thing either. Sometimes you want those to come in and you're like, oh yes, this is what's going to save the day. But at the same time, it's kind of like, where the fuck did you come from? And if you have to have that thought, and it overtakes your thought of, yes, they're here, they're going to save the day, then something's off in that execution. So even though we've probably come up with a number of critiques that we are not satisfied with this movie, it doesn't say, again, that we didn't necessarily enjoy it. No. Again, the comedy aspect, I thought, was delightful. Granted, some of it was cheap laughs. I still cringe when I hear them refer to that one portal as the devil's anus. Like, really? That's butthole. Let's go butthole. And I'm not trying to be censorship or anything like that. It's just, it
wasn't unnecessary.
It was unnecessary. Like, yes, it's kind of funny the first time you hear it, and after that, it's like, you guys really saying this with a straight face?
You really gave it that so you could have the following lines of, head for that anus! You know, I mean, that was really
That's
why
the equivalent of a fart joke, and you guys are better than this. Like, I mean, yeah. So that sort of thing I didn't appreciate. I love the action sequence between Thor and Hulk's fight. I loved watching the crowd's reaction to it, and then getting behind the Lord of Thunder.
Yeah.
The interesting setup of the shot between Loki and Jeff Goldblum's character, the Grandmaster, when they're sitting on that couch, it's big ass couch, and they're sitting in complete opposite ends of it, and Loki is just absolutely not enjoying himself whatsoever because he's pretty sure he's going to be killed after all of this, or that Thor will die. I'm not sure if he's rooting for Thor or against him at this point, even though he tells him ahead of time, I'm betting against you.
Yeah.
Like, you really kind of think that he's betting against him because that's a smart thing to do, even though he might be rooting for him because that's what in his heart he wants. And I think that's part of the thing about Loki's character is that, like, he was raised as Thor's brother. He was raised as Odin's son. So even though a good portion of the entire time that we've seen him is him trying to come to grips with the reality of him not being Odin's heir, he is something else. It's also rectifying the fact that, not rectifying, but whatever, the fact that he has this other life, this other identity too, and he can choose. He doesn't have to be one or the other. Like, he can be both if he chooses to be, and I think that's what Thor is begging from him, and the last time he kind of talks to him before they have that final showdown with Hela.
Yeah. And it's like, this whole movie, well, I give it a solid 8 because it was fun and it had its great moments. There seemed like there were a lot of whiffed punches that would have jumped it up to a 10. From the opening, needed to be fixed, the underuse of Loki, the reveal of Hulk in the trailers, but also at the very end, remind me what you are the god of again. And the fact that she has to say it twice.
Yeah.
Like, she says it once, and then they go into this flashback with Anthony Hopkins, which was unnecessary and I didn't fucking need. And think of it this way. Okay, so anyone who's actually seen it knows how it goes. And then think of this way of it happening. And this is just my thought. I'm just a poor schmo who works in car sales, so God knows what I know. But Hela's beating the shit out of Thor. She's getting the one up. The people may get away, they may not get away. Suspense is building. Thor gets knocked down over the rail where she has him in the actual version. He's knocked down with his head facing the ground. She grabs him by the back and says, "Look," and you look up and you see her army about to get into the clutches of all these Asgardians who are trying to get away. It looks like it's hopeless. And she does her villain half a monologue where she says, "It's over, I've won, blah, blah, blah. This is all the fight you could muster. Then, tell me again, what are you the god of?" And that when she says it, it's just her in the shot, and you hear a crackling of electricity, and it shoots to Thor's face, who's in the Avatar state, and he just powers up, and that's when the lightning bolt hits. Isn't that a better way to do it than say the line, go into a flashback, come back from the flashback, say the line again, enter Avatar state?
I think it was important. I don't know about necessarily saying the line again, but I think that inner monologue he has with Odin kind of helps remind him of who he is now. Why he needs that reminder, I don't know. That's something we can always debate, but the idea is that he has that reminder because up to that point he had relied more or less on his brute strength, it seems to be.
Wouldn't it be better?
Let me finish. I understand what you're saying. I don't agree that it would have been better. No. I think it's important that they had that connection between he is feeling weak right now. This person will not stop until he's dead, and she broke his strongest weapon. Like she took away his strength, or what he thinks is his strength. But I don't understand why he would forget that from being in the ring with Hulk to all of a sudden in this fight with Hela, and he's totally forgotten that. At some point, I think that conversation he has with Odin needed to happen. I don't know why it needed to happen in that moment. It's something he could have had while he was in life, while Odin was still alive, and he is just kind of remembering it, and he keeps having that flashback to, like, real fast of Odin, and, like, maybe thunder, like, building in the background or whatever, and then he's like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm Raiden, bitches.
Or, what if he would have, like, done it the way I said, and then after the battle's over, have some kind of communion with Odin? I mean, if he can speak with him in times of stress...
Like a Force Ghost.
Yeah. Why can't we Force Ghost this shit? They're gods! Like the audience is gonna question it. Like, why can't he talk to him? He's dead. Because he's fucking Odin! That's why!
I'm okay with them doing it beforehand, but I wish the structure was done a little bit better. Well, I was gonna say two things. One of the things that I wish that they had done, that I think that they kind of allude to, but I have to go back and rewatch the Thor movie, like the original Thor movie, to really remember how this goes, and that is the birth of Loki. And Hela is talking about to Thor in the Thor movie before they get into that final showdown of, like, who she was and who Odin was and what they had accomplished, and how he all of a sudden just kind of changed his mind and he wants to be a benevolent king now. And she talks about how, like, he changed his mind because he wanted to have you. Like, but if I remember, Loki came first. Loki was older than Thor. And so it wasn't necessarily that he decided to have Thor. It might have been that he had seen what all of his warmongering had done. He had found an innocent and he wanted to try and help that one. And he took him in and adopted him and realized that he was going to have to make a better life for this child. He couldn't continue to decimate other worlds like his. Granted, there was a reason why he was fighting that group, but he still wanted, he thought there was a better way. And Loki was part of the reason why he came up with that decision. I think that would have been much more powerful because it would have tied in that relationship that Loki has to the rest of his family in realizing that he is part of it. And that he was a big reason as to why the Asgards are the way they are right now. They took that away by not saying anything about it. No, Asgard. I wanted to say Asgard specifically.
Oh.
By Asgard, the empire or whatever, why it was the way it is now. As affluent and powerful as it was, and so forth. And kind of tying in also to what that theme of Loki taking over for Odin, and kind of just, playing Odin's part and not being a real king, but just acting like it essentially, and how ironic it is that Odin had decided to become a different kind of king for Loki, and Loki was just playing at it as Odin. But that was the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing I wanted to say was I actually did read the Ragnarok comic years ago. Years and years and years ago. I don't even remember if Iron Man had come out at that point. It was around the same time. It was probably like the same year, roughly, but before Iron Man had been released. And so I do slightly remember, because I only read it once. I read it maybe 2 or 3 times. But I read it, and this is again like well over 10 years ago. Well, not well over, but at least 10 years ago. And so the thing that I remember most from the comic was that the connection was between how Ragnarok, yes, it is essentially an apocalypse. It's Armageddon. It was if I remember correctly, it was like the Viking lore of the end of the world. But it wasn't so much like it was the actual end. It was a cycle, essentially. Like Ragnarok is a restart. And that's kind of what I was hoping they were going to do with this. But much like with the Civil War storyline that they did with the MCU movies, they obviously took it a different way. They did something similar, but not exactly. So I did want to point that out real fast. If anyone who jumps in or has read this or sees this and wants to comment on it after we're done, by all means, let me know if I have it right or wrong, because I know there's a shit ton more than I'm forgetting. But that was kind of the thing that stood out to me the most, and that's what I kind of remembered over this time. And I might be remembering it wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's right. But I don't remember how it actually goes. I don't remember if there was an actual restart. I want to say that there was, but I don't know what that looked like either. I think it was just kind of, it all begins again. Which I feel like is something they could very well easily do if they're going in the Infinity War storyline. Yeah. That they could just, well, this is just going to like be a cycle. It just starts over. It's kind of like Lost. It ends with Matthew Fox's laying down, and it begins with Matthew Fox laying down. Where he lived and where he died. So, whatever.
Anyway, so I mean, that's really our thoughts on Ragnarok. I mean, go see it. It's worth the theater watch. 8 out of 10.
I give it 8 out of 10.
It's just, I think part of it is we're spoiled.
Yeah.
So many great Marvel movies have come out that we're much more critical on them. I mean, if you look, when the first Spider-Man came out, it was the greatest thing. All Marvel fans, oh my god, that was amazing. That was an amazing movie. Oh my god, 2 was awesome. Fantastic. Oh my god.
Salivating and writhing on the floor.
And then go back now after seeing the Amazing Spider-Mans and Homecoming. Wow, the original could have been a lot fucking better.
There are still things that were good about the first one.
Yes.
And I mean, the reality is that some of it is kind of a relearning, not relearning, but a learning process. Like, you do things in the first one, and then at some point you decide that we're going to have to restart this over again because of the direction we're going with the general universe. And we can no longer, this needs to be updated. And so we're not going to rehash the same thing we just did necessarily, but we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to update it for today's time as well as for what's going on in the comics these days and what viewers are going to be expecting in relation to the other movies that have already come out. But yeah, I enjoyed this movie very much, and what was I gonna say?
Yeah. So, and the post-credit scenes. We're not going to spoil those for you.
No.
There are 2, and it feels to me, and I brought this up to Ariane, it feels like they're now doing mid-credits and post-credit scenes on most of their movies, and the mid-credit scene is for the story. The end credit scene is for comedy.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine with.
Well, I don't think they're going to do a Howard the Duck movie. I would kind of like to see them do a Howard the Duck movie.
Fuck that.
Just because I remember the Howard the Duck movie. I am old enough to have watched it, not when it came out, but to remember it coming on like WTTW or whatever. Not WTTW, like whatever, Channel 50 Monday, Saturday rainy movies or whatever. Not long after it had been released, and being freaked the fuck out by it, honestly. I didn't understand why this woman was attracted to a duck. I didn't get it. I was like 7, I think, at the time. But like, knowing that some of my parents let me watch it. No, my dad let me watch it. But like, no, yeah, I kind of almost out of nostalgia, I kind of wish they would, but I don't remember very much about Howard the Duck or know anything about the comics to really talk about if it should be part of the Guardians of the Galaxy universe or anything like that. We haven't seen Volume 2, so I don't know if he shows up somehow again. But I will also say that in relation to the post-credits, I will say 2 things. One, the post-credit scene for Homecoming, I thought was hilarious. I thought it was trolling, but it was trolling in a good sort of way. Like, it was lighthearted rib at the audience. Now, I know some people will feel insulted by it because you sat through all of the credits, and it's a lot of credits.
And wham.
And you get for nothing, but I won't say it's for nothing. 2 things that I remember watching in the post-credit scene for Ragnarok was, 1, apparently there's somebody named Tuesday Stone out there. I just thought that was an interesting name. And 2, apparently Chris Hemsworth has a dialect coach. And I mean, I guess it makes sense because he's Australian.
Yeah.
And Thor is not. So maybe it's important that he's able to do this and he needs the assistance. But just things like that. But also working in, school counseling and students looking for jobs and not looking for jobs necessarily, but trying to figure out what they want to do with their life. I'm not saying that everyone should go out and work for a movie, but if anyone's interested in doing it, it's kind of like people don't know what they want to do after high school. There's a shit ton of jobs out there. You need to know what you're doing. You need to be experienced. You need to have, X, Y, and Z in order to get there. But just saying I want to make movies, okay, well, how do you want to make movies? Because just look at the end credits for almost any major movie that's been released in the last, 30 years. And those credit scenes are long. You watch any movie from pre-1953 or something like that. I don't have an exact number. But you had all the credits at the beginning and then the end. That's it. You didn't have a post-credit scene. You had the end. And like your pre-credit scene was, depending on the size of the movie, I think like Gone with the Wind had a pretty lengthy, like, you know, before credit scene or something like that. Maybe Wizard of Oz, but in general, you had like your actors, you had your directors, you had maybe like some of the effects people, if there were effects as in lighting and shit like that, and then costuming, and that was it. There was no like Australia like team, there was no Vancouver team and all the shit that comes along with them. No, it was just like 9 people making a movie and everyone else like, well, you're getting credit because you're part of the guild union or something, like that's it. Like, no, like it's important to be able to still give recognition to those people who contribute to the fantastic, hopefully, work of art that you just got finished witnessing. If you don't feel like they deserve that time, then don't stay. But don't just stay, I guess, for the end credits scene. You can find that shit on YouTube. Let's be real. So that's what I have to say about it.
Alright, so there's our thoughts on it. That's pretty much all we got so far. There will be more videos coming. Gonna start doing more reviews. I'll probably be seeing Jigsaw by myself next weekend.
I may or may not see it. I might see. You can see Jigsaw and I'll see Justice League.
Well, no, because I want to go to Justice League.
Well, you didn't want to go to Justice League.
I know, but if you're gonna go, I'm gonna go.
Fine, if you're going to Jigsaw, I'll go to Jigsaw.
Thanks, man. So we'll probably have some discussion on those, which I'm sure Ariane will salivate at the opportunity to rip a Saw movie apart.
And DC. I don't mind going into DC.
And so that's coming. Also, Tuesday, long stream of Star Wars Battlefront 2 is coming.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, we'll be doing more of these and political discussions, and hopefully we'll get a camera at some point, and, you know, maybe make this a little better of a broadcast. But for now, we're broke. Deal with it. This is Matt.
This is Ariane.
We're out.
Bye.